Hi, everyone. Welcome. I'm so glad you're here. We are back with another Foyr Friends Talk. We're so happy to have Lindsay Valdez of Woodland Style Home today. If you follow me, if you follow Foyr, you've seen a lot of posts about this conversation, and I'm so excited because little story, Lindsay and I met through Foyr on Instagram, and here we are interviewing each other. So it's going to be great. And Happy New Year to everybody. So while I go ahead and bring her on, a lot of people are joining. We're so excited. Please tell me where you're from, what you're interested in hearing today, and if you have any questions. So bear with me 1 second. It worked.
It worked. We're here.
So if you don't know, Lindsay and I tried to have this interview and conversation a few weeks back, and we were having technical difficulties.
That's right.
The universe said no.
Yes, no. I'm glad we were able to reschedule and get it going this time around.
Yes. Oh, I'm so good to see you.
So good to see you.
I was just telling everybody we met through Foyr.
We did.
And became internet friends.
Yes.
And like here we are. So
yes, the power of social media and just creating new connections. I mean, it's really been great. So yeah. I'm glad that you and I get to connect over this too. And
absolutely. So why don't you tell everybody a little bit about yourself and what you do and how Foyr fits into your career?
Absolutely. So I started the design journey, say back in about 2021. Had been thinking about it for several years, just really wanted to get into the business. I had in 2021 decided to go back to school. Started with working with a interior designer, a local interior designer as an assistant. I was with her for about a year and a half. And during that time, I learned a ton just over the business and got to see a lot of, on-site processes. And during that journey, I had really started feeling this pull to start doing things on my own. Really wanted to start designing on my own. So I had decided to leave there, and just the way that the universe works, during that time when I thought I would be doing this fully on my own, I saw that Woodland Style House was hiring. And I thought to myself, I'm going to send in my portfolio. And with that, I didn't have a ton of projects to show them on my own, right? So was newly into just getting my feet wet into all of it. But what I did have was renderings. So I had renderings from when I was working at school. At that time, I was working on, SketchUp program. I had started dabbling in Foyr on a couple side projects I was working on, and was able to show them those renderings through Foyr. And when I started really kind of getting into the whole rendering side of things and using this program, I was just blown away just by, how realistic it was, how user-friendly it was. And so I was able to bring that to Woodland Style House. So a little background on Woodland Style House and kind of how they all operate. This is a fully woman-owned business. They were started by two individuals, Jill Sims and Sandra Lagasse. And they started in 2016, just the two of them. We are located here in Houston, a northern suburb called the Woodlands. And over this time, they have just grown into this organization. There's now 22 of us spread out between the Woodlands and the Austin, Texas market. And we have everything from renovation specialists, event specialists, home stylists. We have holiday crew that go and do holiday installations. So I mean, they've really an organization specialist. So we really have like honed in on what all aspects of this business do our clients looking for, right? And so they've really created this niche within our area to accommodate that. Um, and when I came in, over the last several years, we've really been seeing this uptick of individuals wanting to do renovations,
Mhm.
right? So that's kind of where I was able to come in and kind of lend, my expertise and have this program of Foyr to be able to help provide to their clientele.
Right.
So, and they really keep me busy with all of those girls and their renovations and all of their talents. They bring me their designs, and I'm able just to like kind of throw them in and help them get their projects off the
That's
ground.
incredible because you went into it thinking, and not to say you're not an interior designer because you are an
Right.
interior designer, but you went into it and differentiated yourself amongst all those, other potential folks who would have been applying and said, hey, like, here's what I can bring to the table on top of, what everybody else can
Right.
do. And so, having that background, I'm sure made you a superstar in their eyes.
Yeah, I mean, it's been great. I mean, it was just, and also when it was really a way for me to get my foot in the door, right? Like I
Mhm.
didn't have a ton of projects to stand at the time, didn't have a ton of projects to stand on, behind me to showcase them. But even just being able to put them in renderings and saying, okay, but this is my aesthetic. And if I did have this dream client, here's what I would be doing with
Right.
it, you know, just to kind of help show my capabilities before I did start getting the clientele, right? And
Totally.
then, just being able to fall back on this program has just been, taken everything just to the next level, really.
How often do you find yourself, or I should say, like, what's the number or average renderings that you do in a week or a month, or is it seasonal? What's your volume?
So I would say on during peak season, I'm probably running anywhere between 2 to 3 renderings a week. And then so as we start to slow down, like we typically will slow down like come November through the holiday season.
Mhm.
We'll start to see an uptick now that the holidays are over. But even during I'd say like November to December, I'm probably running about one a week.
Yeah.
Um, and then I'd say about 97% of my business comes straight from Woodland Style House.
Yeah.
I will work with other designers or contractors from time to time when they come to me for renderings, but they keep me so busy
Right.
that a lot of times I'm just, solely with my girls from Woodland
Mhm.
Style House and doing their renderings. And then, using it on my own too with clients that I have with Woodland Style
And
House.
I sort of do that same thing, but instead of working for a, single firm, I help those, one-off individual designers and help them with their renderings as sort of that contractor, that they would hire or service provider. So very, similar, but, very different business models too. And I would say that, if somebody who is considering Foyr and sort of on the fence and, finding themselves without the ability, or I shouldn't say without the ability, without having had that experience and, having those jobs, take advantage of this because like you said, this is your marketing material, this is your portfolio, and you could make it like budget free,
Right, right.
and put together
The
the most
sky's the limit. Yeah, you don't have
amazing
any
thing
limitations
ever.
of someone telling you no, right? Like it's
Right.
really showing what you can do. I think that that's a great thing that you touched on, but also like when I'm designing for clients and I'm just in the phase of material selections, there's so many times I'll throw it to the rendering just so
Mhm.
I can personally see like, okay, what's the scale going to look like? What are these colors going to do before I even present to a client?
Right.
So it's a great tool for us to be using as well. And
Mhm.
whether or not I share that rendering with the client later down the line, is based on each individual project, but just for my own planning,
Right.
right? Or like if we're doing looking at scale and doing furniture layout plans and things like that, just really taking it to that. And it cuts down on so much time when before we would maybe doing, graph paper and measuring to scale and putting your furniture in that way, like
Mhm.
that was time consuming to where this is so much quicker in, the whole design process and just planning.
Right. Right. And that's, again, there's a whole nother business use case for it, which is for layout and planning and internal use
Sure.
versus customer client facing presentation use. Like that, yeah,
Yeah.
that's really great. So take me through that. Take me through, you guys get a client, you have a prospect. Okay, we're going to go ahead, and how does that work? Do you guys present to them first, or where does the rendering, where would that fall in that process?
Yeah, so typically what we'll do is we'll have our first initial consultation with the client. We'll kind of, figure out what their aesthetic is, what all the scope of the job is going to look like. Are we taking down walls? Like what is the scope of the reno, right? And then at that time, we either myself or whoever's project it is will gather all the measurements within the room, um, get all the before pictures, send me any kind of like mood boards, links, and materials and things like that that they would want to work with. And then we just hit the road running and we throw it into the rendering, and start planning, showing the initial ideas there. And then with that, then if there's any, change orders or anything that they're seeing that they would want to move around, we can move around within that aspect once we kind of have the initial rendering kind of up and initial selections made.
That's awesome. So speaking of selections and all of those things, what would be your favorite tool within
Just
Foyr? What?
I'm glad that you asked that question, because when looking at different programs, this is the number one reason why I chose Foyr is because of how realistic it is. It blows my mind. So just the capability of being able to go straight to Sherwin-Williams, Benjamin Moore's website, doing a screenshot, grabbing that exact paint color and throwing it on the walls, right? Or throwing it on the cabinetry, and being able to, another great feature, not to get too sidetracked, but another great feature of Voyeur is the fact that like you can get the sun direction in just right, right? So if your home is north facing and the sun is going to come in, you want to know what that paint color is going to do, right? So just being able to use those functions and seeing what it really will do in that space is like any is beyond anything of from what any other program I've experienced is doing right now. So I'd say that feature, and then also being able to take, you know, uh, loading a material like tile, those types of hard finish materials, and making those and getting them to scale. Right. So like being able to show like, okay, this is going to be a 2x4 and this is, exactly to scale how it's going to look. Cause like a lot of times when we're looking at tile, they're showing us these little
Right.
square boxes and you don't know what it's going to do once you get it on, a wall that's, 5 feet by whatever. So being able to play with it and get it to scale, I think also is just like more than what any other software program is doing right now.
Right. And I would completely agree, because I just went through this project as well where it was a primary bath remodel, and the tile the designer did in a basket weave pattern, like a 4x4, and it was incredible, like how, looking at the render and then looking at the finished shower itself, it was like, people were like, "Oh, is that the finished one?" And
Yes,
it was
hands down, that's
awesome.
my favorite thing to hear. And every time, and I'm sure you feel the same way, is that when people
Hmm.
are like, "Oh my gosh, is that
Yeah,
the render or the final
yeah,
product?" Like they
I
have a hard
know.
time showing like which picture is which, and that, I mean, that is just no other program is doing that
I
right
know.
now.
And the other really cool part is when you actually do, get those screenshots of your paint colors or your fabrics or whatever. When you upload them, because you can upload them as a custom texture, you can actually save them into a library now.
Yes,
And so you don't have to go back and find, Chantilly lace and Balboa
right.
mist. We can just pop that in there, and so as you use the program more and more, just it becomes more intuitive, and you just can go and find your stuff and
Yes.
you're off and running.
Yeah, that's such a great point. And then even when pulling from their product catalog, right? Like you have your favorite items that you've used before. You get to heart them. They're in your library. And yes, to your point, whatever you're pulling, screenshots of or uploading from the internet, you also have their extensive product catalog to know,
It just gets bigger and
it
bigger
does.
every day,
And
literally.
easier and faster,
Yep.
really.
Yep. So one question that came through is if you are, or if you met an interior designer just starting out with Foyr Neo, what advice would you give them?
Take every masterclass that is offered through Foyr. I've been on, Christy, I've been on several of your classes too. There is every class I've ever taken with Foyr, they'll do them. I don't know, like, is it quarterly or every so often
Yeah.
they'll,
A lot of
they'll
office
shoot you an
hours too.
email and they'll say, hey, we're doing this master class. And even if it's something you think you know enough of, take
Mhm.
it because there's always something to take away
Right.
from and learn from. So that would be my first advice is take every master class that's offered. My second advice would be they also offer a trainer to you. So when you're in a project and if you're like stumped for 30 minutes, an hour, on just working in this one area, trying to get it to scale to, because it does take a little finesse to figure the program. Like
Right.
wouldn't want to like come in here and tell everybody that like you're going to hit the road running. It's going to be 20 minutes to render. That's not going to be the case when you very, very first start, but you
Mhm.
do get quicker as, like you said, your product catalog gets bigger. You kind of learn the ins and outs of the program. But, getting on and doing a live training session with somebody over Google Meets is so like worth your time and you'll gain a ton of knowledge that way.
Yep.
And I mean, I've done it where I've needed a project and I got stuck on something and I had my trainer with me that afternoon. Like, and
Mhm.
I know that may not always be the case, but I mean, it's always just been within either that afternoon or within the next day. Someone has been able to jump on a call with me and work out whatever issue I may have been facing, or within a particular rendering. So that would
Right.
be my biggest advice: is just take advantage of all the tools.
Hmm. And so much of it is available. And as you say, and I find myself doing this as well, when you're working in that program and something isn't lining up, or my window isn't showing the light through
Right.
what's going on, and just even the live chat, and they'll take over your project,
Yeah.
and and then you get it back and it works, and
Right.
it's
Yeah.
wonderful. So yes, the support, and then just as you say, the continual use. Practice doesn't make perfect, but practice makes progress. And,
Right.
the more you use it, you find your workflow, you find, which way to build something. And,
Right.
it's just kind of how you do it.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So, well, what other last, parting words would you like to give everybody and share and, tell us about?
I mean, I just think that like if you are, considering doing a rendering program, if you're dabbling a little bit within Foyr, I would say, keep with it. It's going to get faster over time. The program is absolutely fantastic, and just even from the year and a half that I've been using it, they've really, upped, just the quality. We went from when I was first using it 4K, we're now on 12K.
Mhm.
We have the 3D or we have the walkthrough available now. So I mean, they're always evolving
Right.
as a program, and so I really appreciate that. I know that they have other things that they're working on as well, like within the pipeline, and it's a really great program if you have the time and you want to be able to have this as part of your business. Stick with it and just keep doing it. It really does help.
Right. Exactly. And as a individual designer or a firm itself, that's a 100% guarantee way to, communicate your vision without things getting lost in translation, and a way to differentiate yourself completely.
Absolutely. Yeah, I
So,
mean, it really does cut down on change orders for the contractors, right? So I mean, it's just this big circle of
mhm,
like it helps everyone. It helps the designer, it helps the contractor, it helps the client, like,
mhm,
and it really does help your project I mean, we would maybe go from being on an 8 week trend to finishing, and we may even be able to cut down to 6 if everything's going right because we don't have change
Right.
orders, right? Everyone's on the same page of what's all being done within the scope of work because we have accurate visuals, right? So that's kind of how I'd wrap it up.
I laughed because one designer I work with, she sent me a picture of, again, this bathroom, and the rendering pictures were, taped up. There was three of them, three
Oh,
different angles, and it was like, this is what it's supposed to look like. So as the contractors walked in, because you don't always have the same guy
that's
coming
right.
through and doing the work every day, and there would be no question about, which way things are supposed to go. So
Oh, I
it made
love
me
that.
laugh, but
Yeah, no,
yeah.
that's a great best practice. I love that. Yeah, that's
Yeah. So,
great.
well, Lindsay, thank you so much for
Thank
joining us
you.
today. We're so excited. Tell everybody how they can find you and find Woodland Style
Yeah,
House.
so you can follow Woodland Style House on Instagram and Facebook. And they're just labeled, their tag is the Woodland Style House. And then I am, you can find me there. And then you can also find me at Lviv Interiors.
Hey. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Thank you, everybody, for joining. I'm
Thank
Christy
you.
Began, A Home's Journey, new Gulf Bear Homes 30A. So I did my whole Airbnb in
Yes,
Foyr before I
it's
did it.
beautiful too. You have to go check it out if you haven't. It's
Thank you.
gorgeous.
I
Yeah,
appreciate it. Shameless plug.
yeah. So fun.
All right. Well,
Thank
thank
you,
you so much. Happy New
Christy. It's
Year.
always a
It was great
pleasure.
seeing you. All
Yes.
right. We'll talk to you soon. Thanks,
Okay.
everybody.
Bye. Thank
Bye.
you.